Oh yeah. Welcome back. Episode 146, Matt, of the Grouch and
Jeez.
Brainstorm. And man, we are just trucking right along. Just big time.
Yeah.
No guest today, and that's cool. Well, I think we can manage without a guest this time. Um, so what you been up to, bud?
Man, so I just left a middle school 8th grade basketball game with a fist fight between
Yeah,
players. Okay.
yeah.
Ended with the benches emptying and they ejected the whole team, including my son, who got off the bench to go jump in the fight. So we lost the game in the last 20 seconds. We were down one anyway, but they called the game because our bench got up and emptied that. Man, they had sheriff's deputies and mamas out there throwing hands. And welcome Louisiana, baby. That's
Man,
all I can
yeah,
tell you.
yeah. Louisiana high school basketball, dude. That's just
But
that's
yeah,
how it
not even
rolls.
high school. This is 8th graders, man. Eighth
Well,
graders.
they're getting them
Yeah,
ready for high school.
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
So yeah, they kicked everybody out. Evidently the rules are if you leave the bench during a game and there's like something like that, anybody leaves the bench is ejected. So they ejected everybody we had because they all left the bench to go help their guy. And so there was nobody left to play. So they called it with 20 seconds left. So
Hell yeah.
yeah, welcome to Louisiana, baby.
That's
So
that's man. That's classic North Louisiana. Boy, South Louisiana, they'd had a little alligator fight going on up in there.
yeah, yeah. Well, and you know what was so bad was the police ran and had to pull the mamas off it. They wasn't worried about the boys fighting. It was the mamas. They were grounding them up. So,
Well, that's just man, that is just how it rolls, brother. Hey, look,
yeah.
any announcements you can think of?
Man, Maurice, one of our
Hmm?
one of our
Up, Matt. You know I gotta play it.
go for it. Go for it.
Come on.
All right, now we can go.
Maurice celebrated 13 years the other night at our home group, the half past five. And uh yeah, man, that guy's a good guy, and he's a black belt AA guy for sure, man. Like he's the highest level you can be as far as knowledge. And uh, you know, I kind of put him and you on the same as far
Oh,
as knowledge, man. Y'all can literally just spit out the book, and he's like that. He reminds me a lot of you in that aspect. But
I
yeah,
think
he had a
Maurice
birthday,
got
and
me on that. He's a like what a counselor and a nurse and
yeah,
13 years recovery and
yeah,
you
works
know
in
uh
treatment.
yeah.
So
And then Wyatt finally, he on the 28th of January, he got him it was 8 years. I thought it was 9, but it was 8 years he got, Matt. So I misspoke on that last one. He celebrated 8 years of recovery, and of course, I text him on the day of his recovery to tell him congratulations and keep your ass in line because you way away from me right now, buddy. You in
that's
South
right.
Carolina,
Yeah,
Carolina,
yeah, yeah.
man.
They
And so what else? What else?
man, we just spring's coming, and all the AA groups have got their little stuff going on, and we've got our little chili cooking coming. Roger, who's been on here before, he's going to speak in a couple of weeks at the state line group here on the Texas Louisiana line. And just all kind of AA stuff, man. If you can't find something to do in Alcoholics Anonymous, if you're bored, I don't know what to tell you, because
Yeah.
there is always something going on.
You
So
definitely got, yeah, you got, you an introvert, Matt. If you're not good to be an introvert, I guess you can be and stay sober, but man, it sure does help to get out and outrovert or whatever the word is.
I think everybody's introverted when they come in to, it's kind of awkward being around all these people who are just supposedly raving maniacs, but they're, but they're, sober now, and then you kind of get in there and you get people like Randy and folks have been around a little while, and they kind of, hey man, come help me do this. Let's talk about this, and you kind of ease you into it, and you know, you just it just goes from there, So
You mentioned Randy, 30 years on February 20th. I'm doing my best to get out there, man. I'm trying to arrange things to where I can be out there on February the 20th and March the 7th for the Half Past Fives intergroup. I don't even know who is speaking. Do you?
yes, but let me think about that a second. I don't know the person. It's not
Okay.
somebody I'm familiar with.
All right. So we got
A lot of years of sobriety though, like decades.
yeah. Yeah. That always
That's all I
helps.
remember. Yeah.
So I'm doing my best. Randy actually called me the other day out of the blue. Joe called me, and then Randy called me a couple days later, and I'm guessing, man, I kind of up and left that area in such a hurry. I didn't get a chance to tell everybody that I was moving, 2,000 miles away,
I
and
know because I've had that. I'm like, Mike's in Reno, and they're like, what? No, he's in Dallas.
yeah,
I'm like, no, he's been gone from Reno. Been in Reno a while. So
yeah. I was in Dallas this morning, so I was in Northwest Arkansas this morning. I was in Dallas this morning, and here I am sitting here at my studio desk in Reno, Nevada. And man, another thing that happened, Matt, over the past, I don't know, what is today, the 5th or 6th? It's the 5th.
yeah,
Um, Groundhog Day. Did the groundhog see its shadow?
I don't know, man.
See, let
I
me.
feel like I've done your trip that you had today, but I never left Bossier Parish. That's been my day today.
So I think it was on the 2nd, right? I think that's when Groundhog Day
Man,
was,
I don't even know.
and what you can only imagine the immense pressure that these groundhogs are under on that day,
It's
and
got to be.
and granted, now they've spent their whole life being conditioned for this event, because for them this is like the Super Bowl. I mean, they're not sponsored by anything, and here's the bad thing, these groundhogs are under all this pressure, and no one even, the way we find out if they saw their shadow is word of mouth. We don't, man, it's nobody even keeps up with. It's like, now in Vegas, there's probably a line on whether or not the groundhog sees its shadow, right? But
Mhm.
everywhere else, we find out, hey, and then people think it's complete BS, right? There ain't nothing to it, but did he see it? You know what? Well, I sure hope he's right, or he's got to be wrong, or because they have to have that groundhog to blame, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you have 6 more weeks of winter or 8 more weeks of winter, it's the groundhog's fault. It has nothing to do with anything but the freaking groundhog. And
This is Louisiana. This week, in this last 7 days, we've had weather in the 20s, and we've had it above 70.
yeah,
We've had frozen ice, and 2 days later, 71 degrees. So,
Matt, I have my air on right now, and we have a 57% chance of snow on Tuesday. So,
mm,
yeah, yeah. Well,
I will say
every,
this:
what is that?
Louisiana, we don't call them groundhogs. I think there's that what we call is a neutral rat is
Yeah,
what we and
y'all have Neutral Rat Day. Oh, and you got Mardi Gras coming up pretty soon.
yeah, yeah.
Later in
I
February.
I was fishing with a guy that I wasn't fishing with the guy. Let me back up. This
He was
guy's very
fishing.
strange, and he shows up at a spot that I fish at that's a public area that anyone can fish, and he will show up, fish for 15 minutes as fast as you can fish. He'll say they ain't biting, and he leaves, and it's
Mm,
almost comical. Okay, but he's crazy. He like they need to look into the guy. He's just nuts. But I'm out there fishing the other day. Here he comes stomping out on the big dock area that we fish out there. And there's two pelicans, big white pelicans, huge. They're out there swimming gracefully
yeah.
around the lake. And I ain't catching no fish. I'm like, man, that's cool. I took a picture of them. I'm just sitting there watching them. I'm not paying attention to crazy guy. I hear this voice over my shoulder, and he says, "Have you ever ate a crane?" And I was like, "No, sir." And he said, "I wonder what them things taste like." And I said, "Man, I'm in Louisiana." I was like, "Sir, you're wrong on the species. And also, I don't know that anybody's ever eaten pelican. But if they have, it's in this state. So I don't know." We got 2 listeners in South Louisiana, Mr. Bo and Miss Melissa. If anybody can cook a pelican, it'd be them. So I may have to ask them about that.
Well, and I think that is, if I'm not mistaken, the Louisiana state bird. And so, yeah, I think if they did cook them, they probably shouldn't admit it on a nationally worldwide
Yeah.
podcast.
And, I mean, the guy, obviously, you can tell these are pelicans. I mean, a 2-year-old could tell they were pelicans. And this man's in his 60s. I mean, he's looking dead at them. There's no mistaking. And he's thinking, well, the fish ain't biting. Maybe I could kill one of them things, and eat it. So,
He
whatever.
just wants some crane meat.
He's wanting something,
Man,
so.
that's how buffalo chicken was invented right there, man.
Yeah, I guess so.
I
I
tell
guess
you,
so.
boy, it ain't got nothing to do with buffalo. It's Dave's Hot Crane.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I wonder what flamenco tastes like because so according to the internet sources that I gather, the crane gets its red, not the crane, the flamenco gets its red color from all the shrimp it eats.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, I've
Yeah.
never done this, but I will say in West Texas, there's some boys right now that are jumping up and down, throwing stuff at this podcast if they're listening, because they do hunt those sandhill cranes,
Yeah.
and they say it tastes like a ribeye. I've never hunted them. I don't even know what they look like, but they're serious about it. So, but these were not cranes.
There were pelicans.
They were
Louisiana
pelicans.
state birds right there on your driver's license in that little seal looking
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So,
Matt, the month of February has just so much, dude. I mean, we just talked about it, Groundhog Day, right? We have Randy's birthday. We have Black History Month. We
mhm.
have God, there is just a plethora of things.
One other thing, Joe, who was on our podcast, last episode or the one before that,
Yeah, Joe.
Joseph, he celebrates 1 year tonight
Well,
at the
good for
Koala
him.
Club. So
Good for him.
1 year, man, guy's doing great. So,
Yeah. Yeah, he had a good story, from listening to what he did. So I wake up every day and I don't make it a podcast. What I do is since I moved out here and I'm kind of isolated from my normal people in AA, I wake up every morning and I put this camera on me and I grab me a little like the microphone you were holding up.
mhm.
Well, I got this right here, see, and that little thing will go in that microphone, and you can talk in it like that, and it makes a microphone, right? And I make me a little. I read the daily reflection, and that's how I start my day every day. I read the daily reflection, and I give a little bit of my experience with whatever the reading is about, right? And
Right.
of course, this morning I woke up in Arkansas, had to go to Dallas, left Dallas, had to get to Reno, so I didn't get to do it. I got to do it when I got home, right? And so I recorded it. And the month of February, though, if anyone is new to AA, they may not have realized this yet, but a lot of groups in hunting for a topic, they will go to the daily reflection because it's AA approved literature, and that daily reflection basically is going to talk about one of two things. It's going to either talk about, so if you're in February, that's month 2, right? So it's going to talk about that second step, or it'll talk about the second tradition, depending on the day of the month or whatever it is, right? And after a while, you realize, it's the same thing on February 2nd it was last year on February 2nd, we do that. But it every day for 5 days, I've been talking about step 2. in my basically, when I go by the reading of the day, it all kind of, and some of them, that correlate to stuff that may be a little heavy on the newer person in recovery, right? But step two is basically just saying, the actual step, Matt, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Okay. And so, my experience with this is I couldn't quite grasp it. Step two back, all those years ago when I was getting into step two, and I really, the alcoholic thing, I get it, but when we're getting into, that step one and I can't do it, I work at 100%. That's the one you got to do 100%. Says we, not me, all that stuff, right? But came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. To me, says, doesn't say came to believe in a power greater than myself, right? I've had to get there somewhere in between one and two. This is that I come to believe that a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity, right? There is no in a power greater than myself. It's that a power greater than myself, right? And so that can be, this is one where a lot of times we lose folks because for some reason they think this is the step. I mean, man, we just began, right? We just spent all this time with our sponsor and we're talking about step one, and now they're telling me I got to believe in whatever, right? And that is not the case. That is just not the case. I had I I had a very fortuitous phone call today from a friend of mine that I have not talked to in years. And I just got the call just out of the blue. Hey, I need to visit with you. Called me. Not alcoholic, none of that going on, right? But the call was about an addiction issue, right? An addiction issue that made somebody make some really bad decisions, right? And my mind was blown. I put it to you like this: I spent some quiet time with just me having to sit there and think about these steps one by one, think about the things I've heard in AA, because it was such an upsetting call. You just out of the blue, And
Mm-hmm.
the more I thought about this, the more I thought about these readings I read every day. And it really, to me anyway, is about control. Some of it about step two, some of it is about control. Obviously, step three is going to be the really big one on control. But step two is just that, for me anyway, I've been doing what I've been doing. I can no longer be the one who makes the decisions about my life, right? And we go into these rooms. I don't care if you're in a AA meeting, an NA meeting, a GA meeting, whatever meeting it is, right? I think they even have CA meetings. I don't know what the one for sex.
Every drug they have, I think they have an
What's the
A
sex
for
addiction one called, man? I know
it.
you've been
SA,
to a couple of those. What's
SA.
it called? SA.
I'm a
SA.
sponsor in that, Mike. If you need some help, no, I'm playing. I'm not, but
Oh no, I don't need a hand, bro. But look, so but you go into these rooms and you meet people you ain't ever met in your life, right? And they're different than you, right? Some of them are different race, some of them are different gender, some of them have a different orientation, some of them are from a different economic background. Or I always wanted to use the word socioeconomic. I don't even know what it means, but hey, we'll use it, right? But they're different. They're 100% different, and you may even think you're better than they are, right? Seriously, that may
yeah,
come about.
yeah.
And the truth is, they're going to give dates that they have been sober or off the bet or off the coke or off the meth or off the crack or whatever it is they're on. Off the sex, I doubt, but um, they're going to give dates, and a lot of them have been doing what they're supposed to be doing for many, many years. They know what they're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They got it going on. So no matter what we think about these people or whatever our opinion is, by the way, it changes drastically if you keep coming back. But no matter what our opinion is, man, these people, they know what to do to stay sober. And some of us are like, I'm not listening to them. They have a Slayer shirt on. I'm not listening to them. They like Morgan Wallen, or
Yeah.
yeah, you know where I'm going with that, right? Or you don't want to listen to them because you're judging them.
Yeah.
But the truth is, we're the sick puppies that go in, and at some point, I had to come to believe that what they were telling me was true. And that, and I realized years later, because man, I was so religious. Like when I got to AA, I wasn't going to sit here and say something else was my higher power. Right. I wasn't going to say it, Matt. I wasn't going to say, that the group is my higher power. To me, that's blasphemy. But yet my actions have allowed alcohol to be my higher power for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think it's more about action than it is about words when we finally get to a point where action's a big deal, man. So
Yeah.
coming to believe that this group of people can guide me in the right direction, and help me go back to where my first thought isn't taking a drink. It may be pausing. It may be praying. It may be calling a sponsor. It may be something, because whatever they tell me has been working for them, and some of them for many years.
Mm-hmm.
So we can talk about step 2 in a light of religious fervor if we wanted to, but the truth is, it's just coming to believe that there's something bigger than us that can help us get back to a mind where we don't automatically go to that one thing that makes us feel better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is and I'll tell you, a Catholic priest, and I don't remember his name. He did a lot of YouTube videos back in the day. And, he said something, and I never could figure that part out either. But he said, at first you come, then you come to believe. Right. And I kept
Right.
thinking, this is insane. I got a month to get through step 2, dude. You're going to have to come up with something better than that. But, the truth is, at first you show up, you show up
Yeah.
at a meeting, right? And then you start to open up, you start to open your eyes, you start to say, hey, these people have been sober. And then you start to believe, hey, whatever they're doing is working. Right. It isn't
Yeah.
necessarily a question of religion. It is to me anyway, man, I'm only speaking from my experience, because I still have the same God that I grew up with. I still,
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do, man, to be quite honest with you, it was me that was in the way.
Yeah.
It wasn't,
Yeah.
I never seeked unless it would benefit me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you
Yeah.
start seeking again, it's going to benefit you because it's going to help my recovery. And so I read these readings every day, and some of them make perfect good sense, and some of them don't, but for the most part, it's really just about the relief you can get from saying, hey man, there is something to this. Something to this that's working, man. I just need to write down. You ain't even got to write down. It's written on the wall in every freaking clubhouse that I've ever been in. And so how does that step 2 look to you, dude?
I mean, so I think it ties, and this goes by what you always hear them all saying, how the steps are in order for a reason and all that stuff. If I've done step 1 properly, and I've beat into my head, and I've looked at examples, and I went, I don't know how you do it. I did a 5, 5, and 15. That's what I have my guys do.
Now what's that 5, 5, and 15? Tell me what that is.
So it's 5 times. We list examples of 5 times. Now you put me on the spot. Of the examples we were powerless.
Okay.
5 times our life was unmanageable.
Okay.
And 15 consequences from those actions.
Gotcha.
So it kind of gets you to thinking. I can tell you this, with doing that, if I had to put money on it, the ones that can't finish a 5, 5, and 15, they're not ready. the guys that have come in and been like, well, I remember this one time, bro, I could write for days on my crap. You know, when I did mine, it was more than like it was pouring out. But I say that to say, when I've established that I have no freaking clue, and that's what step one does, I have no freaking clue how to stay sober. Left to my own devices, it's a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
When I've established that, anybody, like this says in the book about the only people can't really get it are those mentally incapable.
Of
I
being
mean,
honest with
anybody
yourself.
with any kind of a little bit of thought can sit and look at with step two and go, there's got to be something here. If all these folks are doing all these things every day and they believe in this, there's got to be something there. And I know, and if I have any doubts about that, what I do know is it ain't me. I can go back to step one. It damn sure ain't me. So if I want to go keep struggling and keep doing, and I was just, it was death by the time I got there. That was the only other option. So it was like, I'm going to try to at least listen and try to figure out what they're talking about. And, yeah, and I was open minded enough to at least go, okay, it ain't me. I've managed to pick that up along the way. Um, so what is there? And it just took a lot for me of sitting in the rooms of listening. And yeah, I grew up in a religion, and I have the same God now that I did as a child. The religion part has changed, but the God hasn't changed. It just took me a different way to come around to that and kind of to understand it um, on down the line as I went. Um, but I got to see examples of higher powers and people having a higher power and things being done for them that they couldn't do for themselves. And I heard that over and over in there. And I watched people get kids back and get jail sentences commuted, and then they end up getting a great job, and it's like this whole 180-degree turn, and like it was nothing that they did, you know and that kind of stuff caught my attention early on, and I was like, they definitely believe it, but I can see from coming in here every day, I can watch the progress in this group of people life, and I can see that they stay sober pretty much no matter what. They always do that, and I can see the successes little bits at a time. And that's where I think the home group has been so good, and having that bunch, that's your people, and
It
you
is.
you kind of live life with them. And when things are bothering somebody, they're bothering us all. And when they're good, we're all celebrating. And
Yeah.
I never found that anywhere, and that was kind of the draw to me, was like, um that these folks are on to something,
Yeah.
and that peaked it enough, because the steps are steps. You're not going from one to the top. It's a little bit at a time. You're slowly working your way to where, and for me, that's what that step was. It kept me in the game, and I had step one to fall back on and go, well, I can't do what I was doing, because that can't happen. So what other options do I have? And you know, a little unsure of what to believe in, but I knew that believing in Matt didn't go real well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he ain't no damn Billy Graham to be following around. I can assure you, he'll run you right off the cliff. So
Well, in Matt, we come across the two kinds of people that have a long time in recovery, right? You have two kinds, or maybe five kinds, but basically you have these two kinds of people, and one of them is the guy or the lady who, hey, Mike, what's the matter, man? And then you tell them, and they kind of laugh, and they kind of laugh because they know as well as anybody, they've seen that situation a million times,
yep,
right? They
yep,
know that no matter what, it's going to work out. They may even had it happen in their life, you
yep,
know. you got that kind, and they'll listen to you, and then they'll be like, well, you need to go, sand the floor, paint the fence, whatever, and do that Mr. Miyagi shit. And we got them kind, and then they'll share some of their experience with you. And then you got the kind that'll never let on that they've been through it or they've had someone go through it, right? They'll just kind of direct you in the right direction to get to a step. Is one of them good or one of them bad? No, it's just a different style of the way we do these things. I think what it shows though is you're not going to meet someone in AA that's been around for, your length of time, my length of time, that hasn't seen just about everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, usually by 8 or 9 years and you've done the whole recovery bit and have a home group, you've seen just about everything that someone's going to go through. And so there's another reason why you have to just come to believe that what these people are saying is legitimate, right? Because these real world experiences have happened, and man, you'd have never told me 15 years ago or almost 15 years ago, when I walked into the rooms of AA, that 15 years later, I would be in my third state and my fifth city and traveling all over, or have a podcast, or, still be working with people in recovery. And you wouldn't have told me that, but yet they say those magical words that we just write off, keep coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And we think it's just some weird saying, but the truth is, like, it just keeps the development of it continues to grow over the course of your recovery, to where there is no limit. You got people, we've met people in there that, back when they got sober, they had to do a year in jail. And then when they got out, they had to do this, and this. And now they're retired. They're retired, and they get to go hunting or fishing or golfing or, whatever it is that normal people get to do. And like, they know that you're always going to get through it. Right? No matter what it is, you're always going to get through it. And, coming to believe, because your relationship with your higher power, no matter what that is, that's going to form through the process of the steps. So you're on step 2. You're on 2. Your whole idea of a higher power may change by the time you get to step 12 and finish step 12. And then it may, hopefully your relationship evolves, because step 11 is how we seek to get even closer and closer to that higher power. Of course, we'll get to that later on. And we've had step 11. We've talked about it before, but the step 2 thing was really on my mind. And it was really on my mind because of the struggles that I faced whenever I was new to recovery. Because imagine coming in and you already have a higher power. You already have a higher power, and you're like, so what do I do? Just talk to it more?
Yeah.
What do I do? Change my prayer? Maybe a little bit of all that, but then the person that you're going to, you don't have to call them your higher power. You don't have to do that. But what you do is you just come to believe they know what they're talking about, and what they tell you will lead to some really good recovery and a really good life. That's and that's hard. That's hard because, we're geniuses when we get there. We know everything.
I was old Albert. I was Mr. Einstein, son, when I got here. Yes, sir.
And here's another thing, Matt. When I first got to AA, I've cut my own hair my whole life, bud. My whole life.
And that's a talent.
Ever since I was probably 23, 24 years old, I've been cutting my own hair, because I've always lived a really fast-paced life, and going to a barbershop just don't fit in there. And plus, $5 for a haircut when I can get me a Flowbee, but I don't have a Flowbee anymore. But I cut my own hair. And when I got to the rooms of AA, on days I would cut my hair, I would have to have a broom and a dustpan, to get all the hair up and put it in the trash can. And now I cut my own hair, dude. I can just wipe it all up with a baby wipe. Like, every bit of it will just go on a baby wipe. And, so it's going to change, man. Things are going to change. That dude that celebrates 30 years on February the 20th, Randy, I remember him telling me some of the health problems you have when you hit age 40 and then 45 and then 50. And even then, I didn't come to believe he knew what he's talking about because everybody's different. Everything that dude told me was going to happen.
And that's I'm glad you brought that up. And for you guys out there, whatever you do to get sober, man, do it. Whatever it is, if it's I don't care what it is. We talk about what works for us, but we love to hear people recover, and I've seen people do it in lots of different ways, and we are not the only house on the block.
True.
But all that being said, if it was for not for the fellowship of the folks in AA, I don't know how folks do it on their own. I hear people, well, I just quit. Well, I would not have been able to do that. And I'm glad that I had tried that a lot and it didn't work. And I'm grateful for being in a room like that of mixed sobriety, of people from all backgrounds. And some of those old timers, like, I remember getting to my first year and I was so fired up, man. Like, I got a freaking year of sobriety. And I remember just being like, I never thought about it being kind of a letdown the week or two after to be like, okay, now what? And one of the regular guys, he's still in there. I just talked to him the other night. He comes up to me after the thing, very soft spoken man, and he says, now look, year two, we want to work on this, this, and this. And I was like, what? You mean I got to do more shit? And he's like, he's standing there with at least 3 decades of sobriety then.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, you mean I got to keep going with this? And he's like, yeah, what you want to do is this is how you're going to grow in your sobriety. And to sit there in 5 minutes and explain that whole year I had ahead of me. And I was just like, that's awesome. Like, but what it did was it gave me something to work on then. It wasn't resting on my laurels. It wasn't doing any of that stuff. And I wouldn't have that if I was on my own. So I'm really, really grateful for that. And I will say this too. I have a very close family member who, let me think how to put this, works with a lot of people that are in SA. Okay.
Yeah.
Those are very secretive. They don't have a central office. Like, you can't just look that up anywhere.
Do
So
they have a
I had
book?
some, huh?
Do they have a book?
I'm not sure, but I did know a guy at one time who was in SA, and he said, because I actually we talked about it. He was in another program as well in NA, and we got on that subject, and I was like, dude, how do you not ever have sex again? And he said, no, we don't do that. He said, it's the meaningless covering up the way we feel doing it. That's like, if you're married and have a wife and a normal sex life like people would have, yes, that's one thing. But the other stuff, the risk taking and all that, he said that's what we try to eliminate. And I was like, so it's just changing the way you feel is what you're trying to do. You know, no different than using a drug, basically. So
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that being a drug.
that's kind of the way he explained it to me. It was like when we use it to change the way we feel, then it becomes an issue. It's not an issue when we're spiritually fit and all the things that we're supposed to be, in our program. Same with those guys. So, but you were just talking about seeing all this stuff, and I'm not going to share personal details because it involves other people. Me, I always blurt all my crap out. I don't care. I hope it helps somebody. But I'll say this: in May, I will be. If I make it that long, I'll be 8 years sober, clean and sober. And I'm not saying it for that. What I'm saying is, for folks out there listening, this has been the hardest year of sobriety that I've ever been through. This past year, it has been an absolute meat grinder. Like, from start to finish, I have had my ass thoroughly, thoroughly whooped.
Yeah.
But the whole time, my attitude has been, I'm really learning some stuff here. And
Mhm.
there's a point to this. My old attitude would have been, F this, let's blow it up, let's whatever it is. And I'm telling you, it ain't even been a close. This has been the worst year. It's been tough, man.
Yeah.
And it has been leaning on a higher power every day, trying to stay positive and keeping my mind positive and not getting caught up in, oh, poor me, oh, negative crap. And to me, this has been what Mr. Joe talked to me about 7 years ago or 6 years ago when I had a birthday. These are the things we do and we learn because you're going to grow and you're going to have those experiences and shit happening, for lack of a
Yeah.
better word, just life happening. I know you dealt with a bunch of stuff too, but it felt like I've been in the ring with Mike Tyson all year and I've had my ass whipped, but I've regrouped. I figured out what I got to do. We're just keep plowing, and I would not have ever done that if I hadn't been introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous. So,
And Matt,
um,
I've had those years. I've had,
man,
year 6 was probably the single hardest. And I think back about it now, but I'm kind of like with you, year 6 was really tough. And so, and that was mainly with my son.
yeah, yeah,
And I look back now, here he is, 8 years sober.
yeah,
And I'm just
yeah.
kind of glad we ain't sharing a sobriety date.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Father
but I've
son
had those
ships.
years. Had those years, man, where, it just nothing seems to be the way I want it.
Right, right. And just
And
and just life is knocking them dominoes over faster than I can straighten them back up. And I'm used to, okay, a couple of them knocked over. That's life. But this is like one of them things where they set the world record and they're all just going, and it's like, what a shit show. And then finally, I just go, I'm gonna do what I can do right
yeah.
now as best I know to do, and that's all I can freaking do, man. And that's
Man,
step 2 all day long.
I'm
It is.
I'm stuck on a Ferris wheel. At least I'm stuck at the top.
Yeah, yeah,
My,
yeah.
you know,
It's but it's like, we've had a lot of health issues with people close to me this year. Uh had 2 cars blow up within 2 weeks. Like totally shot, no good no more. Bye-bye, see you later within 2 weeks. Like this whole year has just been like just somebody blasting away with a shotgun, and I'm just at the point I'm like, you know, whatever. It's all I can do. So
yeah.
just do all I can do and let God handle the rest of it. So
Reminds me of the story of Job in the Bible,
I've been reading on Job a lot.
very
You
short
know,
story, but and he never lost his faith, and I think about my daughter, man, and it just from the time my grandson was born, and that it was one thing after another and after another, and devastating news and then good news and then devastating news and then good news, and you seen him. I mean, he's still with us.
he's rocking, man. He's
He's
rocking.
rocking. I hope
Yeah,
they get
yeah.
him a haircut because man, he's got
I
hair
don't
all
know,
over
man. I
the place.
like the surfer dude he had the other day.
Yeah,
So,
he's got a man bun, and I don't know
well,
if there's any fellers out there listening that have a man bun. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about your hair. But no, he had a little man bun going on in a picture. But he's next month. They supposed to go get their they're gonna find out the treatment plan. They go to Philadelphia next month,
yeah,
her and him, and I think she told me today they're working on the transportation, getting them out there because he's got to be flown on a private jet, and
yeah.
and I'm using the jet that weekend. So no,
I was gonna say just borrow his pawpaws. That's all he's got to do.
yeah, No, I can't. It's still impounded. I didn't have the right plates on it, and
Got some rims on that thing,
yeah.
uh,
But man, but you know what? This kid don't even know he's sick. He don't. He don't.
no,
He just so. He has been probably in my life, man. I'm 53. I'll be 53 here in in 22 days, and he has probably been the single biggest inspiration to me in my 53 years.
yeah,
And that
yeah,
is like you're talking about people like my dad and my ex-father-in-law and his dad and Dale, my first sponsor. These Joe, these big timers, Jerry in New Orleans, these big timers that come into my life and they're a huge inspiration. And if there's ever been a single inspiration that has just, when things get tough, I'm just like, man, they ain't tough. We don't,
yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
what tough is.
yeah.
I don't. I can breathe without a thing stuck in my, and so it's and my daughter too. The way she's handled this is just
Hmm.
good Lord. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
but it takes people like Joe and other folks in AA who have been around to say, this ain't nothing lasts forever, man. Bad stuff don't last forever. Good stuff don't last forever. Nothing lasts forever except for
And
them Nokia
I
phones.
I catch myself doing the laugh. I always was at first the laugh person, would laugh when I would say, "Oh my god," And Joe's one of them. He kind of just chuckle, and Randy will laugh his ass off actually, but
Yeah,
yeah,
he will.
he'll make fun of you, but make you feel better about it. Uh, but they would do that, and I understood. I didn't take offense at it, but I'm like, dude, do you not understand? Like, this is the end of the damn world going on here,
Yeah,
and you're laughing. And then I realized, like, you know, they've been through all that shit, and they're like, you're gonna live, you're gonna be fine, and I'm so grateful to be around that, and I can tell how my attitude and my mind has shifted. Not that I don't get negative and get pissed off and you know, it's always at me. I don't ever get mad at anybody else, but I'll get so frustrated with myself. And sometimes I have to go, bro, you're doing all you can do. And the other day I
that's it.
stopped. I said, you know what? I got 30 minutes. I'm stopping at the fishing dock for a minute. I didn't catch fish, didn't have a bite, but I did see old boy trying to eat those pelicans. So,
Yeah,
and I just went, hey, I'm all right. Breathe a little air, get out of there,
yeah.
roll on. So
At least you ain't ever craved pelican.
I hadn't had it that I know of,
I'm
so
just, hey,
Uh,
man. Boy,
that or
one
bald
thing
eagle.
that one thing before we close up is I think as a someone that's been around a while, and you as well, Matt, we have people that come into the meeting and they're new to recovery and they ramble, and we kind of seem to dismiss them, right? Some of our members just dismiss those folks as, you know, that maybe I don't know what it is, right? But I think it's very important that we listen to the message in the rambling, right? Because how are they going to
Mhm.
come to believe we know what we're talking about if we dismiss them on a regular basis, right? And if they go to
Yeah,
one meeting and they dismiss them and they go to another and they dismiss them. Now, I get it. They can't ramble the whole meeting and they can't take up a lot of people's time. I understand that. And
sure.
somebody with a solution wants to speak. But I do think too many times we dismiss those folks before we hear the message in the rambling. And, hey man, it may just take an arm or something put around them, or man, maybe not. It's kind of creepy at certain times. Maybe it's just sitting down next to them, just talking, going, "Hey, look, I've been there, man. I've been there. I need you to, come to believe. I just
Yeah,
need you to come to believe that we've all been there, and there's a
yeah,
solution, and we got it right here. Just keep coming back,
yeah.
So
And you people early in AA, your first few years, I got to go back the other night. I don't go very often anymore. I kind of turned it over and let some other folks do it. But I used to go to a local rehab for the first 4 years of my sobriety. I went every Saturday night. And I mean, I didn't miss. And let me tell you something, if there ain't nothing that'll keep you grounded and where you're supposed to be, then keep going in rooms and treatment centers with folks that's got a week or 2 weeks or
Yep.
a month. And you talk about the rambling and those things, and I mean, it's the MMA of that gum Alcoholics Anonymous, because it's hand to hand combat in there. I mean, and man, it's such a good thing when you're a year, 2, 3 years in to go back into doing that, and you really learn how to listen to people and what the point that they're trying to get to is, because you get a lot of that stuff. Sometimes there's people that need to be on medication that really probably shouldn't even be in a rehab technically,
Yeah.
and you have to go, okay, he's talking about Burt Reynolds and Smokey and the Bandit. I don't think we're talking about you know but you learn to listen and learn to listen for the clues of what's really going on. And that was such a big part for me those first 4 or 5 years. So
I'm right there with you, bro. Well, Matt, we've concluded our time, man. Hopefully we get to record again. I leave out for Houston on Monday. So I got Sunday afternoon if you want to go. If not, I'll be back a week from today. I'll be back on Thursday, and we can look at it. I come up maybe a guest, maybe another topic. I don't know if people like hearing guests more than topics. I do know ever since I've been in Reno, most of them have been guests and no topic. And I think maybe we do need to have a healthy mix of both so
sure.
that people can understand that there are still, pinpoints or pain points in recovery that we've been through. And maybe they can come to believe that we know a little bit about what we're talking about. Not a whole lot, but, just enough to where we've been sober one day at a time. Right. We've been
Yeah,
through a lot
yeah,
of stuff.
sure.
So, if anybody's got an idea, they can reach out on us. Maybe we can even get old Lisa on here next week, see if she'll.
Oh, you won't have no trouble getting her. She'll be on here in 2 seconds. Want to know why I'm late?
Tell her, text her. I'll text her tomorrow and tell her we're gonna have a meeting and we're gonna try to get her on, and we're gonna do another recording before we do another guest. So
Hey, I like Lisa being on. I can just sit back and put my feet up in the chair. She can go to town, buddy.
she
So
can.
yeah,
She's
yeah,
she's definitely entertaining, but she's putting together that recovery one day at a time, man. So
yeah.
I can't think of any other announcements. Koala Club, March the 7th is going to have their intergroup. We don't know who's speaking. Maybe on the next one, I'll be able to find out who's speaking and be able to pass that information along. I think that's it, Matt. I think that is it, brother, for
Yeah.
step 2 and for this episode. So, from Bossier City, Louisiana, and from Reno, Nevada, today, Matt and Mike have been the Grouch and the Brainstorm.